Okay, so imagine this. They finally cracked open Jack Benny's real vault, and what's inside is blowing everyone's minds. Back in 1945, Jack Benny made the most famous fake vault ever on radio. It was all goofy sound effects and him acting super cheap for laughs. But he actually had a real vault too, locked tight for 50 whole years after he died. Inside, old audio tapes marked, "Do not open." When the researchers hit play, they heard Jack himself spilling secrets that could have ended his career back in the day. These tapes explain why he really quit vaudeville and what really went down during those weird missing years in the war. He was born Benjamin Kubelski on February 14, 1894, but his mom had already picked that name months earlier. Emma Sachs was pregnant in Waukegan, but she took the train all the way to Chicago just to have him there. She thought a big city birth certificate would help her kid become a famous violin star someday. She didn't want him labeled a small-town boy. She wanted him big time. She was tiny and weak-looking but super strong-willed. And she had already decided her son was going to play violin in sold-out concert halls. His dad, Meyer, had a totally different vibe. He came from Poland, started selling stuff on Chicago streets, then worked his way up to owning a saloon. He thought show business was trash and no job for a good Jewish family. But Emma basically ran the house. The second little Benjamin could hold a violin, she was all over him. By the time he was 3, they'd moved back to Waukegan and got a small house on South Genesee Street. From the front window, Benjamin could see Lake Michigan, and that turned into a huge issue. He was supposed to practice violin 2 hours a day, but he just stared at the lake. Meyer kept the saloon running and later opened a clothing store while Emma stayed on the music grind. When his sister Florence was born in 1900, Benjamin turned into the protective big brother, but his days were still all violin. On his 6th birthday that year, he got a half-size violin as a present, and lessons started right away with Professor Harlow, 50 cents twice a week. Benjamin was really good. So good that people started calling him a child genius. They took him to Chicago a ton to study with Hugo Kortschak at the music college. But he hated practicing. His mom sat at the piano playing along, saying "you can do it better" again and again while he barely moved the bow. The whole town of Waukegan believed in him so much they collected money to send him to Europe to study. He shocked everyone by saying no thanks. He was already sneaking away from that life. At school, he was flunking everything. He did pranks, he ditched class. The most famous one was in winter when he smeared Limburger cheese behind the classroom heater. When it melted, the smell shut the whole school down. He got kicked out freshman year, and the principal said he could come back if he shaped up, but he never did. By then, Benjamin already had a job playing violin in the orchestra pit at the Barrison Theater. While his friends did math homework, he was playing for live shows. The real lessons came from his dad's saloon, full of traveling actors and loud characters. That's where he learned what actually made people laugh. One night in 1911, the Marx Brothers rolled into town, and their mom, Minnie, watched young Benjamin play. She offered him $7.50 a week plus room and food to tour with them, but his parents said no way. It would ruin him. That could have changed everything, but they shut it down. That same year, 17-year-old Benjamin made a huge move. He quit school for good and joined a vaudeville act with a 43-year-old widow named Cora Salisbury. She promised his parents she'd keep him away from groupies and trouble. Hay toured like crazy, doing 4 shows a day in dusty little theaters all over the Midwest. Their act was called From Grand Opera to Ragtime, and Benjamin made $7.50 a week. Not much, but it was then. Then in 1912, everything almost fell apart. Famous violinist Jan Kubelik sent lawyers saying their names were too close and threatened to sue. Scared, Benjamin changed his stage name to Ben K. Benny. But that didn't fix it. A few years later, another guy, Ben Bernier, came after him too. That's when he became Jack Benny, partly because sailors call each other Jack, and partly from a lucky dinner with comedian Benny Rubin. By 1921, the name was official. After Cora left the act in 1914 to take care of her mom, Jack teamed up with pianist Lyman Woods. Their new act was pulling in $350, $400 a week by 1916. Insane money back then. They played fancy theaters from Boston to San Francisco, mixing real music with funny faces and perfect timing. But in 1917, everything crashed when they bombed at the Palace Theater in New York, the biggest stage in vaudeville. They went on right after an animal act, and the crowd hated them. The partnership broke up and Jack joined the Navy. At 23, Jack got drafted into World War I and sent to Great Lakes Naval Training Center. He played violin for ceremonies at first, but one night everything changed. In a talent show, he played seriously and people started booing. His sailor buddy, Pat O'Brien, yelled, "Tell a joke!" Jack said one quick line, and the place lost it laughing. That was the moment the comedian was born. He started doing shows regularly in the Great Lakes Review, playing a goofy character named Izzy for crowds of up to 5,000 sailors. He figured out timing. He figured out charm. And he realized one joke got bigger cheers than an hour of violin. When the war ended in 1918, he kept that character. America was broke, tired, and still rationing food. So Jack leaned hard into the cheap, stingy guy he'd played in the Navy. He started a solo act called Fiddle Phonologies, mixing violin with jokes about being a tightwad. He made fun of Ach. Himself pulled fake cash from his pocket. People loved it. The timing was perfect. Everyone was broke, so they got it. He wasn't laughing at them. He was one of them. He went back on the vaudeville circuit with Lyman Woods and made even more cash. They redid the act, more stand-up, less serious music, and got top billing all over. They played the best theaters in Chicago and big cities. The Palace failure still stung, though. Still, Jack kept going. He used less violin, better jokes. And with a name that was finally all his, he turned into something brand new. Not a failed musician, not a sidekick, but a guy who could stand on stage, barely move, say one line, and have the whole place crying laughing. By the time he hit Broadway in 1924, he was already 30 and had been touring over 10 years. He knew the stage, but this was next level. Benny's Follies wasn't just another vaudeville show. It was his shot to do something fresh. He walked out under the lights holding his violin, but this time he wasn't trying to wow anyone with skill. He played a little off on purpose, just bad enough to crack people up, even though he could really play beautifully since he was 6. That combo, dry jokes, a little music, total confidence, was brand new on Broadway. The New York Times called it fresh. After years of name changes from Benjamin Kubelski to Ben K. Benny, Jack Benny finally stuck. 2 years later, 1926, he took a chance in The Great Temptations. It was risky and kinda naughty for the time. He played the smart-ass violinist again, but started going off script. 5-minute bits turned into 15. Crowds went wild. Producers freaked out and begged him to stick to the lines so the show stayed on time. But Jack didn't care. His contract said he was in charge creatively, and he used it. Backstage fights got so bad the company threatened to fire him. But he wouldn't saint. Maybe that's when Broadway realized Jack Benny wasn't normal. He wasn't just acting, he was changing the game. That same year, something crazy happened. Jack met Sadie Marks. Actually, it wasn't the first time. Around 1919 or 1920, when Jack was about 30, he got invited to a Passover dinner in Vancouver by Zeppo Marks. A 14-year-old girl named Sadie was there, totally starstruck. She played violin for him to impress him. He snuck out early without even listening. She heard him leave. Next night, when he performed at the Orpheum Theater, she sat front row with friends and stared straight ahead. No smile, no laugh. Revenge complete. They didn't see each other again until 1925 or 1926, when she was 20 and selling lingerie at the May Company in downtown L.A. Jack came in and bought so much women's stockings, he broke the store record. He came back every day. He called her non-stop when he was on tour. It wasn't some movie romance. It was awkward, slow, weird, and it totally worked. In 1927, Jack got the lead in Artists and Models. It was the top of his Broadway run. He made $1,500 a week, like $25,000 today. More than money, it felt like proof he belonged. He'd start a gorgeous classical piece, then wreck it on purpose with terrible playing. Crowd lost it. He used long pauses, fake anger, perfect sarcasm. The smart fans knew he was actually amazing at violin, but he wanted laughs more than claps. He turned failing into an art. And it was killing. That same year, while he was crushing it, something almost ended everything. A theater manager said Jack underpaid the orchestra guys. Suddenly, the gossip wasn't about talent, it was about being cheap for real. The musicians' union jumped in. Blacklist threats, shows got canceled. It was rough, Jack paid money and said sorry just to keep working, but the rumor stuck. Later, when he played the stingy guy on radio, people remembered it wasn't totally fake. Still, not everything that year sucked. On January 14, 1927, Jack married Sadie, now going by Mary Livingstone, at the Clayton H. Hotel in Waukegan, Illinois. During the ceremony when Jack was supposed to break the glass, something wild happened. It wasn't Jack who passed out. Mary did, right in front of everybody. When she came to, there were roses. Jack had already been sending her one red rose every day. After the wedding, she thought that would stop. It didn't. One rose every single day until he died in 1974. 48 years. One rose a day. In 1934, they adopted a 2-week-old baby girl named Joan. Jack looked at her and said, "How can you want to adopt a funny-looking thing like that?" But they took her home. By then, Mary had talked Jack into trying radio. Vaudeville was dying. Constant touring sucked. Radio was steady money, and she was totally right. They got filthy rich. When Joan got married at 19, the wedding cost $25,000. Dress from France, flowers from Holland, party at the Beverly Hills Hotel. One of the fanciest Hollywood weddings ever. Jack's big radio start was 1932 on the Canada Dry Show. It launched May 2nd, and by the end of the week, 40 million people were listening. But it was rough at first. Jack still tried to play violin seriously to impress people. It flopped. Ratings stank. Then he got it. He started playing bad on purpose. He let the other cast members roast him. He made himself the joke. And boom, everyone loved it. In 1933, he jumped to CBS. He was 39, but decided that was his age forever. He said nothing funny about being 40. That year, he started the Vault bit. This crazy underground fortress with traps, alarms, even a guard stuck down there since the Civil War. Totally ridiculous. Totally theatrical and a massive hit. People acted like the Vault was real. By 1936, the gang was coming together. Don Wilson with his huge voice, Phil Harris with that southern drawl calling Jack Jackson and stealing every scene, then Eddie Anderson as Rochester. He was the first black actor with a regular role on national radio. He didn't just work for Jack. He outsmarted him every time and always got the last word. Broke barriers every episode. When southern stations tried to pull shows with Rochester, Jack said, "No Rochester, no show." From 1937 to 1945, Jack owned radio. His show was always top 3. In 1944, he signed a deal for $25,000 a week, over $400,000 today, made about $3 million a year. But the guy who joked about being cheap wasn't always cheap. During World War II, he gave 10% of his radio money to war bonds. He toured 32,000 miles with the USO, playing for over 3 million troops. He didn't just bring the Vault gag, he brought laughs to guys who really needed them. The Vault first aired big time January 7th, 1945. Alarms, creaky doors, old guard Ed waiting. All in your head with just sounds. It became bigger than a joke. It was a symbol. In 1946, Ronald Colman guested. So did Leo DeRocher. The Vault turned into a celebrity hangout. Fans wrote real letters begging Jack to open it for charity. They believed it because it felt like part of hard times, saving money, being careful, laughing anyway. By 1948, the Vault became a Christmas thing. December 19th, he did one of the most loved holiday shows ever, gave Don Wilson a gift, took it back, hid the real one in the vault. It worked because being thrifty felt normal, not mean. And even when America started spending big after the war, people still tuned in to watch Jack pinch pennies. In real life, the IRS wasn't laughing. Jack made $375,000 a year, but only claimed $19 in business expenses. One episode, he took Jimmy and Gloria Stewart to dinner, made them pay, then wrote off dry cleaning because she spilled salad on him. But instead of hiding from tax audits, he put them on the show and made them funny. In 1929, Jack thought he finally hit the big screen. MGM put him in the Hollywood Review of 1929, 2-hour musical with every star they had. Movie made $1 million profit and got nominated for Best Picture. But Jack was stiff and awkward. Violin felt faux. First, timing bombed. They just signed him to a 5-year deal because his agent pushed hard. Next movie, Chasing Rainbows, tanked too, so they dropped him quietly. Months later, he was back on Broadway, embarrassed. That first movie didn't just flop. It labeled him as nervous and hard to cast. That mess followed him for years. By 1935, he got another chance in Broadway Melody of 1936, $1 million movie. He played a rival producer and started adding his own lines that made it better. But director Roy Del Ruth hated it and wanted every word exact. They fought so much the crew remembered hour-long screaming matches. Jack wanted natural timing. Director thought he was a pain. Even though the movie made almost $2.9 million and got nominated for Best Picture, Jack left with a rep as a guy directors didn't want. Then 1937. Jack was vacationing in Canada with Mary when a guy calling himself Albert Chapo said he was a Nicaraguan diplomat. Offered to sneak $2,000 worth of jewelry past customs using diplomatic immunity. Jack trusted him. Real name was Nathan Shapiro, con man fresh out of Leavenworth prison. Scam blew up when Jack got back to New York August 30th. Chapo had the jewelry on him. His maid Rosa Uber turned him in after he made anti-Nazi comments. Jack ended up in court in 1939, fined $10,000, and got a suspended 1-year sentence. Judge told him, "You must feel very ashamed." Jack barely whispered, "I do." George Burns got caught too. Bought a $4,085 diamond bracelet from the guy for Gracie to cover childhood burn scars. Burns fined $8,000. Total cost with lawyers $17,770. Both could have lost everything, but they turned it into jokes on the radio, made fun of their criminal records. Public ate it up. Ratings went higher. The maid Rosa got $614 reward. Jack kept trying movies. 1945, he starred in The Horn Blows at Midnight, Angel Told to End the World. Udio put $1.8 million in. But 8 days before it opened, President Roosevelt died. Country was grieving. Nobody wanted a comedy about destroying Earth. Made only $970,000, lost $861,000. Critics trashed it. Jack didn't hide. He joked about it for 20 years, made the flop more famous than any hit could. 1950, he finally tried TV. October 28th, CBS debut. Only 4 episodes planned first season. He still had his radio deal and was nervous about looking 56 on camera. Even joked in his monologue he'd kill himself if it bombed. It didn't bomb, it exploded. By 1952, 20 million watching weekly. Lucky Strike paid millions to sponsor. By 1960, it was weekly, and Jack was huge on TV. He used it to do new stuff. 1954, future President Ronald Reagan did a vault sketch. Mixing big guests into running stories was rare then, but Jack did it. He gave young comics a shot. November 20th, 1955. Johnny Carson guested and Jack told him, "Keep going, soon you'll be on the cover of TV Guide." Carson never forgot. Copied Jack's face, timing, everything. Became the longest-running late-night host ever. Jack kept working the whole 60s. Last season, 1964 to 65 on NBC, he pushed vault jokes into Cold War jokes, flamethrowers, alligator moats, guard plants named Irving. Commenting on America's security obsession, Carson kept coming by set. They got super close, and Jack taught him everything. When the show ended April 16, 1965, the Smothers Brothers went on after and refused to copy Jack's style. Real tension on air. NBC knew it was the end of an era and paid big to air it. After retiring, Jack didn't disappear. He did specials that fit the times. 1965, he hosted with Bob Hope and the Beach Boys. Used vault jokes to talk saving money during Vietnam. CBS paid huge for one-night shows. Even in his 70s, he was one of the best-paid comics in America. But there was stuff he never talked about. From 1950 to 1964, he pushed Lucky Strike cigarettes, the brand that ended up killing him. October 1974, he canceled a show feeling dizzy. December, they found pancreatitis. C. Cancer. Too late to operate. Weeks left. He kept working till the end. December 26, 1974. Jack Benny died at 80. Last visitors: George Burns, Frank Sinatra, Bob Hope, Johnny Carson. Then the will came out. $5,052,000 fortune, like $35 million today. Owned a rare 1729 Stradivarius violin worth $46,000. Beverly Hills house across from the Playboy Mansion sold for $3 million in 1985. The guy everyone called cheap had secretly been giving away money forever. October 5th, 1961, when Waukegan named a school after him, he set up $39 trust funds for every baby born there that day. Quietly gave to orchestras, kids programs, charities. The stingy thing was totally an act. Real Jack gave without bragging. He changed comedy forever. Seinfeld, Larry David, Gary Shandling, all copied him. Show about nothing, playing yourself, running gags, awkward pauses, big cast. Jack did it first. Mixed real life and fiction, broke the fourth wall, showed comedy could be quiet and smart. 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, motion pictures, radio, television, for a 63-year career. After he died, letters showed more. He quietly backed civil rights, paid for Eddie Anderson's family, Rochester. In 1962, Ebony listed Anderson as one of the 100 richest African Americans. When Anderson died in 1977, his house became Rochester House, a shelter and rehab center. Their 3 movies, 1940 to 41, proved black stars could pack Southern theaters when Hollywood swore they couldn't. And now, in 2025, something cool is happening. Jack's old radio scripts are getting digitized for a podcast series called Radio Vault, Lost Episodes. Edgy wartime jokes that were too hot back then. The January 7th, 1945 Vault episode aired again. People are hearing it fresh in 2025, and the timing still kills. Jokes still land. The more we dig, the more we see the real guy behind the legend.